This is called For Most of History, Anonymous Was a Woman. I can't help but count the days as I get further and further away from people's willingness to hear what I have to say. I'll let another day pass where I feel sick then, confuse being a whore and being a victim, and I could tell you I memorize the features of the ceiling, and I fight every day to forget that feeling. It's been 3 years now. It only took 2 seconds to not feel like a woman anymore. I look at the top half of my clothes on the floor and the way I did not put them there, and we weren't laughing anymore. While laughs turn to tears of millions of women, and I feel like a butterfly whose wings have been clipped, and I forget every beautiful thing I could have been and become a victim. I feel sweaty hands tighten around my wrist. My hands ball up into fists, and I will scream until my throat is dry that I did not ask for this. It was my dad who taught me to fight, but I became useless with hands around my wrist that tight. I may have become useless that night. I had so many things I wanted to say, like who did this to you? Who made you this way? But when you're being forcibly fucked, you don't have much of a say. And I feel every muscle in my body give way. Sometimes it's hard to be a hero. I cry that I have to go home. I feel my body break open and my heart follow suit because I know we're alone, and I feel every bit of your poison enter my blood and my bones. I feel myself being torn like paper mache, and I'm convinced that touch should never feel this way, and you hold me in place so I can't cower away. You are everything that I hate. You breathe your acid on my skin, and your spit makes a layer of filth on my being, like you are planning to catch me on fire with your own gasoline. I could tell you I memorized the features of the ceiling, an off-white color that hinted at innocence fleeing, and I could tell you I hate every inch of my being because it is not my own anymore. My vagina was made a crucifix that day, legs forced open that gave you a place to sacrifice yourself, only you are not holy. You leave me to walk off stage, a doll who paints on a face acting like everything is okay, and my mom doesn't ask me what I did that day. I will never forget the blankets I made into skin, how I let my anger out but kept the sadness in, left to pay for the cost of your own sin. I wrapped myself up to hide the shame. My existence became a game of let's see who can get up today. I turned to the internet, wanting to place the blame, but on the first page I see when I Google rape, I see college women stop getting drunk. I didn't know my heart had the ability to be flung, and I suddenly couldn't breathe like someone had pierced my lung, and my face burned and the tears stung. I became consumed by rage as the internet refers me to a page that it all seems to come back to women as the cause of rape. I can tell you exactly what I wore that day. Not because I want to remember, but because it caused me to misplace the blame, and I was made afraid to fight for myself because of this shame. Sometimes I can't write poetry when I think about you, because there is nothing poetic about losing your beauty to a penis that couldn't even do what it was supposed to. I read that only 3% of rapists will ever see a day in prison, while the other 97% are left to keep raping other women. We are in a society that loathes the favoring of women. And I pray to God that my daughter will never become the 1 in 5 women who are raped. And I hope by then society won't make women with a story too afraid. I can hear my teacher repeat, "The phallus is a symbol of power." But I would like to see a man produce 1,500 breaths of new life into this world with his penis every hour. And I will expose this truth like it's society's biggest sin. Women create the world that you are in. When men tell women, "Don't worry your pretty head," while Karen horny slut shamed every sexist thing that Freud ever said. In a society where men claim to have the power but seem to lack the means to find the clitoris, I think some bullshit has been fed to us. And I don't give a fuck if I sound like a crazed feminist, because I will scream at the top of my lungs that I do not endorse forcible sex. I see the way my boyfriend sometimes hates the sight of my skin. Like the shattered pieces of me will break him too if he touches them. Like the worst parts of me are now parts of him. And "I love you" isn't on the list of things that he said. And I'm still constantly sick in the head. And I wonder if he notices when I can't get wet, and the way I love to bury myself in beds, and I wonder if he hasn't learned to love that part of me yet. I wish no one ever made their way forcibly in. And I wish I wasn't so stubborn that I could forget when he said, "You should have fought back." And I wish he would have known the hands around my wrists, and that maybe I had already thought of that. Sometimes I can't look at my own skin. Not being able to see myself and only seeing him. And trying to fight the voice in my head saying he'll always own me coming from within. And like the sun will always rise and set, it's impossible to avoid the fact that I close my eyes during sex. Like I'm trying to escape the color of an off-white ceiling that reminds me sometimes it's hard to be a hero.